Let me ask you something very honest. When somebody speaks English to you, what happens inside your mind? Do you hear English and understand English? Or do you hear English, stop, translate it into your own language? Think of an answer in your own language, translate it back into English, and then try to speak. If this is you, I want you to stay with me today. Because this one habit may be the invisible wall between you and fluent English. You may know many words. You may understand many videos. You may read English comments, English subtitles, English lessons, English posts. But when someone asks you a simple question, suddenly your mind becomes slow. Your mouth becomes heavy. Your confidence disappears. You know the answer. You have the idea, but the English does not come out. And deep inside, you feel frustrated. You think, why can I understand English, but I cannot speak English? You are not lazy. You are not stupid. You are not too old. You are not missing some magical talent. The real problem is this. Your brain is still using your native language as the middleman. English comes in. Your native language checks it. Your native language explains it. Your native language prepares the answer. Then English tries to come out. This is too slow. This is not speaking. This is mental traffic. Imagine a businessman who wants to make a simple decision. But before he decides, he must call 10 people, wait for approval, send documents, translate the message, check it again, and then act. By the time he acts, the opportunity is gone. Speaking English is the same. Conversation is fast. Life does not wait for your translation. People ask you, how was your day? And inside of your head, a whole meeting begins. What is the grammar? What is the correct tense? How do I say this word? Is this sentence natural? What if I make a mistake? Then your mouth says nothing. Or it says only yes, good, fine. But inside you, there is a whole person. You have stories. You have opinions. You have humor. You have dreams. You have intelligence. You have emotions. But translation locks all of that inside. Today, I want to help you unlock it. Not by giving you more grammar, not by giving you 1,000 new words, but by helping you train your brain to think in English naturally. This is day 2 of the 1-month speaking formula. Day 1 was about showing up, practicing daily, and building consistency. But day 2 is deeper. Because if you practice every day but still translate every sentence, your English will improve slowly. If you train your brain to think directly in English, your speaking begins to change in a very different way. It becomes lighter. It becomes faster. It becomes more natural. Not perfect, natural. And natural English is what we want. Let me explain with something very simple. When a child learns a language, the child never translates. A child does not hear, "Do you want water?" and then think, "Let me translate this sentence into another language." No. The child connects sound with meaning. Water means water. Hungry means hungry. Come here means come here. I want means I want. The child does not study the language like a school subject. The child lives inside the language. The child hears the same words hundreds of times. The child copies the sounds. The child makes mistakes. The child laughs. The child tries again. Slowly, the language becomes part of the child's mind. This is very important. Children do not become fluent because they're smarter than adults. They become fluent because they do not translate. They imitate. They repeat. They connect language with real life. Adults do the opposite. Adults want to understand everything. Adults want to explain everything. Adults want to be correct before they speak, so they make language heavy. A child says, I want this. An adult thinks, should I use present simple? Is want followed by to? Is this sentence polite? Is my pronunciation correct? The child communicates. The adult freezes. So today, I want you to become a little more like a child again. Not childish, but open, curious, brave, ready to copy, ready to repeat, ready to speak badly before speaking well. Because speaking badly is not the opposite of speaking fluently. Speaking badly is the road to speaking fluently. Nobody becomes smooth before being awkward. Nobody becomes confident before being uncomfortable. Nobody thinks in English before training the brain with English again and again and again. I remember when I was younger and I tried to improve my English, I also made the same mistake. I thought if I understood the meaning, I had to learn the language. I listened to something once. I understood the main idea. Then I moved to another video, another speech, another lesson, another topic. I felt busy. I felt productive. But my speaking did not improve much. Why? Because I was collecting meaning, not language. This is one of the biggest secrets that many learners never hear. Understanding meaning is not the same as owning language. You can understand a sentence today and still be unable to use it tomorrow. You can watch a whole video and understand the message, but when you try to speak, nothing comes out. Because the language never entered your mouth. It only passed through your ears. It visited your mind, but it did not become part of you. That is why changing videos every day can be dangerous. You feel like you're learning because you are always watching something new, but your brain has no time to store the patterns, no time to copy the rhythm, no time to make the sentences automatic. It is like meeting a person once and expecting deep friendship. That is not how friendship works. Friendship comes from repeated contact. You meet again, you talk again, you share again. Slowly, the person becomes familiar. English is the same. If you listen to one good English video one time, it is a stranger. If you listen to it 10 times, it becomes familiar. If you shadow it 20 times, it becomes your teacher. If you use its sentences in your own life, it becomes your English. This is why I want you to stop chasing new videos all the time. For the next 7 days, choose one short piece of English, not 1 hour, not 30 minutes. Choose 3 to 5 minutes. A short speech, a simple conversation, a clear podcast clip, a story you enjoy. Something that sounds natural, useful, and not too difficult. Then listen to it every day. The first time, listen for meaning. Understand the story. Understand the message. That is okay. But the second time, listen for language. Notice the sentences. Notice how the speaker begins ideas. Notice how they connect words. Notice how they pause. Notice how they say simple things naturally. The third time, listen for rhythm. English has rhythm. English has music. English is not only words. It is stress. It is rising and falling. It is fast and slow. It is emotion. When you only read English, you miss the music. When you listen repeatedly, the music enters your brain. And when the music enters your brain, speaking becomes easier. This is why songs are easy to remember. Many people can sing songs in languages they do not fully understand. Why? Because rhythm helps memory. Repetition helps memory. Emotion helps memory. Language is not only information. Language is sound. So train with sound. Do not only study with your eyes. Train your ears. Train your mouth. Train your brain. One sentence repeated with emotion is more powerful than 100 words memorized without life. Let me give you a simple example. If you hear the sentence, I used to be afraid of speaking English, but now I practice every day. Do not just understand it. Repeat it. I used to be afraid of speaking English, but now I practice every day. Again, I used to be afraid of speaking English, but now I practice every day. Now change it. I used to be afraid of making mistakes, but now I learn from them. I used to translate every sentence, but now I try to think in English. I used to stay silent, but now I speak a little every day. This is how one sentence becomes 10 sentences. This is how language becomes flexible. This is how your brain learns to create English, not translate English. Most learners only consume English. They watch, they listen, they read, but fluent people produce English. They speak, they repeat, they imitate, they respond, they use. There is a big difference between recognizing English and producing English. When you listen, you recognize. When you speak, you produce. Many learners have strong recognition but weak production. That is why they understand but cannot speak. It is like knowing many songs when you hear them, but not being able to sing them yourself. Recognition is passive. Speaking is active. So if you want to speak, you must train active English every day, out loud, with your mouth, not only in your mind, because silent English does not build speaking muscles. Thinking about exercise does not make your body strong. Thinking about swimming does not make you swim. Thinking about English does not make you speak. You must open your mouth. This may sound simple, but simple things change lives when repeated. Now, I want to show you a very practical exercise. Starting today, every time you learn a useful sentence, do 3 things. First, repeat it exactly. Second, change 1 or 2 words. Third, use it about your real life. For example, the sentence is, I am trying to improve my English. Repeat it. I am trying to improve my English. Then change it. I am trying to improve my pronunciation. I am trying to improve my listening. I am trying to improve my confidence. Then make it real. I am trying to improve my English because I want better opportunities. I am trying to improve my English because I want to speak without fear. I am trying to improve my English because I'm tired of staying silent. Now the sentence belongs to you. You did not just memorize it. You used it. You connected it to your life. That connection is powerful. Your brain remembers language better when language carries your emotions. When English is connected to your dream, your fear, your work, your family, your future, it becomes alive. And when English becomes alive, you stop treating it like a school subject. That is another big change. English should not be a subject you visit for 30 minutes and then forget. English should become part of your day. A little in the morning, a little while walking, a little while cooking, a little while resting, a little before sleeping. You do not need to live abroad to create an English environment. Many people say, if I lived in America, I would speak English well. Maybe. But I have seen people living abroad for years who still cannot speak confidently. Why? Because they live abroad physically, but mentally, they still live in their native language. They watch content in their language. They speak only with friends from their country. They think only in their language. They translate everything. So geography does not guarantee fluency. Environment is not only where you live. Environment is what you repeat. Your phone can become an English environment. Your room can become an English environment. Your walking time can become an English environment. Your notebook can become an English environment. Your mirror can become an English environment. Your daily routine can become an English environment. If you hear English every day, speak English every day, read simple English every day, and think small thoughts in English every day, your brain begins to change, not suddenly, quietly. The way water shapes stone, not with force, with repetition. Many people want English to enter their life like lightning, fast, dramatic, powerful. But real English grows more like a river, daily, steady, patient. At first, it looks small. Then one day, it becomes strong. So today, I do not want you to ask, how can I become fluent fast? Ask a better question. How can I make English impossible to avoid today? That question is powerful. Put English where your life already exists. Change your phone language to English. Save 5 English sentences on your lock screen. Listen to the same English audio while brushing your teeth. Describe your breakfast in English. Name the objects around you in English. When you open the door, say, I am opening the door. When you sit down, say, I am sitting down. When you feel tired, say, I feel tired, but I will practice for 5 minutes. This sounds too simple, but simple is not weak. Simple is repeatable. And what is repeatable becomes powerful. Many learners fail because their plan is too big to repeat. They say, I will study English 3 hours every day. After 2 days, they stop. Then they feel guilty. Then they avoid English. Then English becomes heavy again. Do not make English heavy. Make it light. Make it close. Make it daily. Make it a part of your life. A language that appears only in your study time will always feel foreign. A language that appears in your real life slowly becomes yours. Now, let's talk about translation again, because this habit is deep. You cannot remove it in one day. If you have translated for many years, your brain will continue trying to translate. Do not fight it with anger. Train it with patience. When you hear apple, do not translate. Imagine an apple. When you hear run, imagine someone running. When you hear I am tired, feel the meaning directly. Connect English to images. Connect English to actions. Connect English to emotions. Do not connect English only to your native language. This is how children learn. This is also how adults can retrain the brain. When you learn the word hungry, do not write only the translation. Say, I'm hungry. Touch your stomach. Imagine food. Use it before lunch. Use it at night. Use it when you really feel hungry. Now, hungry is not a translation. It is an experience. When you learn, I agree, do not just memorize it. Use it when watching a video. Say, I agree with this idea, or I don't agree with this. When you learn, I remember. Use it with your memories. I remember my first English class. I remember when I was afraid to speak. I remember the first time I understood a full sentence. Now, English is not floating in the air. It is attached to your life. This is how thinking in English begins. Not by forcing yourself to have big, deep thoughts in English, but by naming your life in English. Small things, daily things, real things. I am walking. I need water. I have a meeting. I feel nervous. I want to improve. I made a mistake. I will try again. These simple thoughts are the beginning of English thinking. Do not be ashamed of simple English. Simple English is the bridge to fluent English. Many learners want to speak advanced English too early. They want big vocabulary, beautiful sentences, native expressions, but they cannot say simple things quickly. This is like building the second floor before building the first floor. Dangerous. Build the first floor. Build simple English until it becomes automatic. Then fluency has a foundation. When simple sentences become fast, longer sentences become possible. When basic thoughts become automatic, deeper thoughts become easier. So your job is not to impress people. Your job is to build automatic English. Automatic means you do not need to translate. Someone asks, "How are you?" You answer naturally. Someone asks, "What did you do today?" You answer naturally. Someone asks, "What do you think?" You answer naturally. Not perfectly, naturally. That is the goal. And the path is repetition. The path is imitation. The path is using English in small, real moments every day. I know this may sound boring. Repeat the same audio. Repeat the same sentence. Repeat the same phrase. Speak to yourself. Describe your life. But let me tell you something I learned from business and from life. Boring actions create exciting results. Everybody wants the exciting result. Few people respect the boring action. Everybody wants fluent English. Few people want to repeat one sentence 20 times. Everybody wants confidence. Few people want to record their voice and listen to their mistakes. Everybody wants natural pronunciation. Few people want to shadow the same paragraph for 7 days. But success hides inside these boring actions. If you can love the boring action, you will get the exciting result. If you only chase excitement, you will stop when excitement disappears. This is why consistency beats intelligence. A very intelligent learner who practices once a week will lose to an ordinary learner who practices every day. Not because the ordinary learner is smarter, because the ordinary learner is present every day. Every day, the brain receives English. Every day, the mouth moves in English. Every day, the fear becomes smaller. Every day, the language becomes more familiar. And familiarity is the mother of fluency. We are afraid of what feels strange. We are comfortable with what feels familiar. So make English familiar. That is your job. Not to master all English in 1 month, but to make English feel less foreign every day. That is already a big victory. Because When English stops feeling foreign, speaking stops feeling dangerous. And when speaking stops feeling dangerous, you begin to open your mouth. That is where real fluency starts. Not in the notebook, not in the grammar chart, not in the perfect plan. Real fluency starts when your mouth moves before your fear stops you. And once your mouth starts moving before fear stops you, something beautiful begins to happen. Not immediately, not dramatically, quietly. One day, you answer a question without translating. Just one sentence, maybe a simple sentence, maybe only 3 words, but it comes naturally. And you stop for a moment to think, wait, did I just say that without translating? That moment feels small, but it is not small because that moment is proof. Proof that your brain is changing. Proof that fluency is not magic. Proof that your effort is working. And I want you to remember something. The goal is not to think about English. The goal is to think in English. There is a big difference. Thinking about English is studying. Thinking in English is living, and living always beats studying. I remember meeting many people who told me the same thing. I understand English movies. I understand podcasts. I know grammar. I know vocabulary. But when I speak, I become silent. And every time I hear those words, I smile. Not because their problem is funny, because I know they are much closer than they think. The problem is not knowledge. The problem is production. Imagine you spend years watching basketball. You know the rules. You know the players. You know the strategies, but you never touch the ball. Would you become a basketball player? No, because understanding and doing are 2 different worlds. Many English learners are experts at understanding, but beginners at producing. And that is okay, because production can be trained, 1 sentence at a time. This is why imitation is more powerful than memorization. For years, many people memorize vocabulary lists, hundreds of words, thousands of words. Then one day they try to speak and nothing comes out. Because memory is weak without usage, but imitation is different. Imitation trains your ears. Imitation trains your mouth. Imitation trains your rhythm. Imitation trains your confidence. That is why children imitate. That is why singers imitate. That is why athletes imitate. And that is why language learners should imitate. People often ask me, how do I improve my pronunciation? I tell them something simple. Stop trying to pronounce. Start trying to copy. There is a difference. Pronouncing is thinking. Copying is feeling. When you shadow someone, you are not only repeating words, you are borrowing their rhythm, their speed, their pauses, their emotions, their confidence. And slowly, your brain begins creating those patterns naturally. Shadowing is like dancing with the language. At first, your feet are slow. You miss the rhythm. You step in the wrong direction. You feel embarrassed. But if you continue dancing every day, eventually your body learns. And one day, you stop counting. You stop thinking. You just dance. English is the same. That is why I love shadowing. Because shadowing trains the mouth and the brain together, not separately. You know, many learners have smart brains, but untrained mouths. The mind knows, the mouth doesn't. So the mouth becomes slow, and when the mouth is slow, confidence disappears. But confidence is nothing more than familiarity. The more familiar your mouth becomes with English sounds, the more relaxed you become. And relaxed people speak better. Nervous people think too much. Relaxed people communicate. I know many learners who are waiting for confidence, but confidence does not arrive first. Confidence arrives after repetition. Nobody waits until they become confident before riding a bicycle. Nobody waits until they become confident before swimming. Nobody waits until they become confident before driving. They become confident because they do those things again and again. English follows the same rules. And please remember something. Speaking badly is not failure. Speaking badly is practice. The first time a baby walks, nobody expects perfection. People celebrate the attempt. But adults are strange. Adults expect perfection immediately. And because perfection does not come immediately, they become disappointed. Then they quit. Then they tell themselves, English is difficult. No, English is not difficult. Expecting perfection too early is difficult. Be patient with yourself. Speak badly. Mispronounce words. Forget vocabulary. Pause. Correct yourself. Laugh. Continue. This is how fluency is born, not from perfection. From courage. I want you to remember a sentence. Bad English today is better than perfect English tomorrow, because tomorrow often never comes. Today is real. Today you can speak. Today you can practice. Today you can improve. And that is enough. Many years ago, I realized something about successful people. The smartest people do not always win. The most talented people do not always win. The people who continue win. Consistency beats intelligence. Again and again. Consistency beats intelligence. A person with average talent who practices every day will eventually defeat a genius who practices only when they feel motivated, because life rewards repetition, not potential. Potential means nothing without action. I have seen people with beautiful accents quit. I have seen people with weak accents become excellent communicators. Why? Because one person protected their ego, the other protected their habits, and habits always win. This is why English should never become a school subject. School subjects have exams. Life has habits. School subjects end. Habits continue. School subjects create pressure. Habits create identity, and identity changes everything. When you say, I am studying English, your brain thinks English is temporary. But when you say, English is part of my life, your brain sees it differently. Now English is no longer homework. It becomes who you are. And when something becomes part of your identity, consistency becomes easier. Think about brushing your teeth. You don't need motivation. You don't need inspiration. You simply do it. Imagine if English became like that. Imagine if listening for 10 minutes became normal. Imagine if speaking to yourself became normal. Imagine if shadowing became normal. Imagine if reading simple English before sleeping became normal. Imagine what your English would look like after 6 months, after 1 year, not because you studied harder, because you lived differently. People often ask me, do I need to live abroad to become fluent? And I always smile, because many people are waiting for a plane ticket. But fluency is not waiting for geography. Fluency is waiting for repetition. Your room can become America. Your phone can become England. Your earphones can become your teachers. Your habits can become your environment. Environment is not location. Environment is exposure, and exposure changes the brain. Think about perfume. If you stay inside a room with perfume long enough, eventually you stop noticing it because your brain adapts. English works the same way. If you surround yourself with English every day, it stops feeling foreign. And once English stops feeling foreign, speaking becomes less scary. Fear comes from unfamiliarity. Confidence comes from familiarity. That is why I want you to stop asking, how can I become fluent quickly? And start asking, how can I make English familiar today? Because fluency is simply familiarity repeated thousands of times. Tomorrow morning, before touching your phone, listen to 5 minutes of English. Not 20 videos. 1. Repeat it. Shadow it. Smile while doing it. Then during breakfast, think simple thoughts in English. This coffee is hot. I need more water. I have work today. Simple, natural. During the day, speak to yourself. Not because you are crazy, because you are training. Athletes train. Musicians train. Speakers train. Why shouldn't English learners train? Before sleeping, listen to the same audio again, not something new, the same one. Let your brain hear familiar sounds. Let your subconscious absorb patterns and then sleep. Because while you rest, your brain organizes memories. Your brain is more powerful than you think. It is a free supercomputer. But like every powerful machine, it needs the right input. Give it English every day. Not stress, not pressure, not fear. Give it English. Give it repetition. Give it patience. And slowly, something beautiful happens. The language stops being outside you. It becomes part of you. One day, somebody asks a question. And before your native language can interrupt, English comes out naturally, not perfect, not fast, but naturally. And in that small moment, you smile because you realize something. Fluency was never hiding somewhere far away. It was growing quietly inside you all along. And perhaps that is the most beautiful truth about language. You do not conquer it. You live with it. You repeat it. You imitate it. You trust it. And little by little, it becomes your own voice. And little by little, it becomes your own voice. Not your teacher's voice. Not a textbook voice. Not somebody else's voice. Your voice. And that changes everything. Because language is not about sounding like another person. Language is about expressing who you are. And maybe that is why so many people suffer when learning English. Because they think English is something they must master before they deserve to speak. But I don't believe that anymore. I believe speaking is how you learn, not the reward at the end. The process itself, many years ago, I stopped chasing perfect English. And something interesting happened. My English improved because I stopped trying to impress people and started trying to connect with people. That changed everything. You see, people do not remember perfect grammar. People remember feelings. People remember kindness. People remember confidence. People remember stories. Nobody finishes a conversation and says, wow, his present perfect tense was amazing. No, they remember how you made them feel. Communication has never been about perfection. It has always been about connection. And when you understand this, fear becomes smaller. Because suddenly, you don't need to sound like a native speaker. You just need to sound like yourself. Clear, honest, natural. That is enough. And I want to tell you something I wish someone had told me years ago. You are much closer to fluency than you think. Yes, you, the person listening right now, the person who thinks they're too slow, the person who thinks they have forgotten too much, the person who feels embarrassed when speaking, the person who understands but cannot answer quickly, the person who has started and stopped many times. You are not far away. You are simply disconnected, not from English, from consistency. Because fluency is not one giant breakthrough. Fluency is thousands of tiny moments nobody sees. 5 minutes before breakfast, repeating one sentence 20 times. Talking to yourself while washing dishes, listening to the same audio again. Smiling after making a mistake instead of feeling ashamed. These moments look small, but small things become big when repeated. That is how mountains are built. That is how businesses are built. That is how confidence is built. And that is how English is built. I once heard somebody say, I don't have enough time to improve my English. And I smile because time is not always the problem. Attention is. People spend hours scrolling, hours worrying, hours comparing themselves with others, hours waiting for motivation. But fluency does not ask for 3 hours. It asks for consistency, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, every day. Not because 20 minutes is magic, because daily contact changes the brain. Think about rain. One drop means nothing, but thousands of drops change landscapes. Your daily practice is like rain. Maybe today you don't feel different. Tomorrow you don't feel different. Next week you don't feel different. But after months of repetition, you suddenly realize something. You understand more. You answer faster. You speak with less fear. And people ask, what happened to your English? Nothing happened overnight. It happened daily. And I think that is beautiful because it means fluency is available to ordinary people. You don't need a special gift. You don't need to be a genius. You don't need a perfect memory. You don't need to move abroad. You need patience. You need repetition. You need courage. And most of all, you need hope because hope keeps people going. Without hope, people quit. And I know some of you listening right now have almost given up. Maybe you studied English for years. Maybe you tried many methods. Maybe you watched hundreds of videos. Maybe you bought courses. Maybe you blamed yourself. Maybe you looked at other people and thought, why can they do it and I can't? Please don't ask that question anymore. Ask a better question. What if I simply haven't practiced the right way yet? Because that question contains hope, and hope is powerful. Hope gives you another day. Hope gives you another attempt. Hope gives you another conversation. Hope gives you another chance. And sometimes one more chance is all you need. I want you to imagine yourself 1 year from now, not perfect, not speaking like a movie actor, just relaxed, comfortable, smiling while speaking English, understanding conversations naturally, expressing your thoughts freely, no panic, no translating, no fear. Can you imagine that person? Good, because that person is not imaginary. That person is you, not today, maybe not next month, but that future version of you is already being created by the habits you choose today. Every sentence you repeat, every audio you shadow, every mistake you accept, every day you refuse to quit, you are building that future quietly, patiently, faithfully. And one day, when English finally feels natural, you may look back and laugh. Not because the journey was easy, but because you spent so many years believing something that was never true. You believed fluency belonged to other people. You believed you were not talented enough. You believed you started too late. You believed you needed more intelligence. You believed you needed perfect grammar, but none of those things were true. What you needed was already inside you. The ability to listen, the courage to imitate, the patience to repeat, and the willingness to continue. That was always enough. So from today, stop translating every sentence. Stop trying to be perfect. Stop waiting for confidence. Stop chasing shortcuts and start living with English. Listen, repeat, imitate, speak, smile, make mistakes, learn, rest, and begin again tomorrow. Because language is not something you finish. It is something you live. And if you live with English long enough, one day you will wake up. Someone will ask you a question. And before you even notice, English will answer. Not because you forced it, not because you memorized it, but because after all those days, after all those repetitions, after all those small moments nobody saw, English finally stopped being a foreign language. And quietly, beautifully, naturally, it became part of you. And that, my friend, is what fluency really is.